come closer. You don't need to straighten yourself up before you arrive here. You don't need to find the right words, or quiet the noise in your mind, or pretend that everything has been fine. You can come exactly as you are, tired if you're tired, uncertain if you're uncertain, carrying whatever it is you've been carrying alone for longer than you should have. This is a safe place. Right now, in this moment, whether it is the middle of the night and the world around you has gone still, or whether it is the early morning and you are not yet ready to face the day, know this: you are not stumbling into this video by accident. There is a Father who sees where you are, who knew you would be here in this moment with this exact weight on your heart. And He has something He wants to say to you. Not a lecture, not a list of things you've done wrong or should be doing better. A letter, warm and unhurried, written from the heart of a Father who has never once looked away from you. That is what this journey is. Over the next several chapters, we are going to sit together in something that is less like a sermon and more like a long, quiet conversation, the kind you have when the lights are low and there is nowhere else you need to be. We are going to move through some of the most tender and real places a human soul can find itself. We will talk about the light that God has placed inside of you, not the kind that shines from the outside like a passing ray of sun, but the kind that was breathed into the deepest part of who you are. We will talk about what it means to abide, to remain close to the source of that light, even when life makes it feel like everything is pulling you away. We will walk through the foggy seasons, the ones where doubt settles over your heart like fine dust on glass, so slowly you almost don't notice until the view has gone completely dim. We will talk about what to do when prayers seem to disappear into silence, when you are waiting for something that has not come, when the person you most hoped would understand was the one who hurt you deepest. We will talk about shame, about the valley so many souls have made their home in without realizing it, and we will talk about the grace that is stronger than every verdict you have ever spoken over yourself. And we will talk about what it means to lift others, to intercede, to become, through a life of quiet faithfulness, a lamp that helps wandering souls find their way back home. This is what is ahead of us. But before we go there, I want to pause for just a moment and speak to you directly. If this kind of content has ever brought you peace, if you have ever found yourself breathing a little slower, feeling a little less alone, being reminded that you are loved in a way that does not depend on your performance, then I want to gently invite you to like this video in the name of Jesus, not as a transaction, not as something you owe, but as a small act of faith that says, this matters, and I want more souls to find it. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel, because what is being built here is a place of return, a place you can come back to when the nights are long, when the questions feel heavy, when you need to be reminded of what is true. New videos are added regularly, and every single one is created with one prayer in mind, that you would leave feeling less alone and more held than when you arrived. So subscribe, and then settle in. Now, let us begin. The first thing the Father wants you to understand, and perhaps the most important thing you will carry away from everything we are about to share, is this: His light was never meant to shine on you from a distance. It was placed within you, not resting on the surface of your life like decoration, not something that flickers only in the good seasons when everything is going well and your faith feels strong, but something placed in the deepest hidden place of your soul, in that quiet interior room that no one else can fully see, to become life within you. And when you understand that, truly understand it, not just as a concept, but as something you feel in the center of your chest, everything begins to change. That is where we begin. There is a difference between someone who is searching for light and someone who has become the place where light dwells. Most of us spend a great deal of our lives in the first category. We search. We look for the right conditions, the right feeling, the right moment, when faith finally clicks into place and everything becomes clear and warm and certain. We wait for the experience that will confirm what we hope is true. We reach outward for a sign, for an answer, for something that will make us feel that God is near. And there is nothing wrong with longing. Longing is holy. But what the Father wants you to understand, what He has been gently trying to tell you, perhaps for longer than you realize, is that you have been looking outward for something that has already been placed within. He did not send His light to visit you occasionally. He placed it inside you, to live there. There is a verse that carries this truth so simply it can almost be passed over too quickly. The Son said, "Abide in me, and I will abide in you." 4 words on each side of a comma, and yet within those 8 words is the entire secret of what it means to live a radiant life, not performing, not striving, not manufacturing a brightness that exhausts you to maintain, abiding, remaining, staying close, not drifting so far from the source that the connection grows thin. Think about what abiding actually looks like in the physical world. A branch does not work hard to produce fruit. It does not strain and push and force life out of itself through sheer determination. It simply stays connected to the vine. The life flows from the vine into the branch, naturally, quietly, without announcement. And in due season, fruit appears, not because the branch was impressive, but because the branch remained. You are that branch. And when you stay connected, when you abide, the light of the Father begins to move through you in the same unhurried, natural way, through every word you choose, through every glance you offer, through every quiet decision you make in the small, unwitnessed moments of your day. Now imagine a mirror, a clear mirror, wiped clean of dust. That mirror does not create the sun. It has no light of its own. Left in a dark room, it shows nothing. But when it is placed in the right direction, turned toward the source, it reflects the light so purely that you almost forget you are looking at a mirror at all. You are the same. When your heart is purified, not made perfect, but cleared of the dust that accumulates over time, the dust of pride, of the need to prove yourself, of the striving to be seen and recognized and approved of, the light of God passes through you more cleanly, more completely. People don't walk away from an encounter with you thinking about how impressive you were. They walk away with a quiet feeling they cannot always name, a sense that something good was present, a warmth they carry with them longer than they expected. That is what it means to reflect rather than perform. And this is deeply freeing, because it means the pressure is not on you to generate something. You are not the source. You are the surface through which the source shines. But here is where it becomes beautifully practical. This light does not only show up in the obviously holy moments. It does not reserve itself for church or prayer or the times when you feel spiritually prepared and emotionally steady. The Father intends for His light to accompany you into every ordinary corner of your life. A gentle word spoken in a room full of tension. That is the light. A choice to listen fully when someone is speaking, rather than waiting for your turn to reply. That is the light. A small act of faithfulness that no one notices, no record of which will ever be kept by human hands. That is the light. Perhaps burning most beautifully precisely because it is unseen. True light does not make others see you. True light makes others feel that God is near. And the remarkable thing, the thing that should bring tremendous peace to anyone who has ever felt that they are not enough, not gifted enough, not spiritual enough to make any real difference, is that the Father often chooses to shine most clearly through the quiet and the small. The world searches for light in what is dazzling. God tends to choose the humble, the hidden, the faithful in ordinary things. But the light must be tended. This is not said to create anxiety. The Father is not fragile, and His love is not in danger of being extinguished by your weakness. But love, true love, requires a heart that knows how to remain. The lamp within you needs oil. It needs the breath of daily prayer, the living water of the Holy Spirit moving through your life, not just in grand moments, but in the quiet in-between spaces of every ordinary day. There was a man named Moses who understood this without fully having a name for it. He climbed the mountain. He sat in the presence of God, not performing, not presenting a list of requests, not rushing to get back down. He simply remained. He listened. He received. And when he descended, his face was shining so brightly that the people who saw him recognized immediately that something had happened, that something of heaven had touched him. He had not stood before a mirror practicing his expression. He had not tried to appear holy. He had simply been near the source long enough for it to leave its mark on him. That is what time in God's presence does to a soul. You may not see it in yourself. You rarely do. But others will notice the peace in your voice, the steadiness in your eyes, the gentleness in how you respond to pressure, and something in them will recognize, without being able to explain it, that you have been with your Father. That is the life you are being invited into. Not a life of spiritual performance, not a life of exhausting brightness maintained by willpower alone, but a life of remaining, of returning, of staying close enough to the source that the light within you becomes less and less something you manufacture, and more something that simply flows, quietly, steadily, warmly, into every room, every conversation, every unremarkable Tuesday of your life. The branch does not force the fruit. It simply stays connected. And the rest, the light, the fruit, the quiet radiance that touches other souls, the rest comes from the vine. There is a temptation once you begin to understand the beauty of abiding, to want to keep it contained, to treat the light as something delicate and private, something that belongs only in the quiet morning hour before the day begins, or in the stillness of a late-night prayer, or in the peaceful atmosphere of a Sunday gathering where everyone around you is also trying to be still and holy. We build little sanctuaries for our faith, careful, protected spaces where we feel close to God and far from the noise. And those spaces are good. They are necessary. The lamp must be tended in private before it can shine in public. But the Father never intended the light to stay there. He did not place His light within you so that it would glow beautifully in the quiet and then retreat the moment life got complicated. He placed it within you so that it would go with you into the difficult meeting, into the strained conversation, into the room where tension is so thick you can feel it before anyone speaks a word. The light is not a fair weather companion. It is meant for the hard places, precisely because the hard places are where it is most needed. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Not a city set on a hill when conditions are favorable. Not a lamp placed on a stand only when the room is already bright enough. The light goes where you go, and where you go, darkness no longer has full authority. Picture what this actually looks like in the texture of an ordinary life. You walk into a room, and the air is heavy. Two people have been arguing. Someone is carrying hurt they haven't spoken aloud. The atmosphere has that tight, brittle quality that makes everyone move carefully, choose words cautiously, brace for the next thing to break. And you, not because you are impressive, not because you have prepared a speech, but simply because the Father lives within you, you speak gently. You do not match the temperature of the room. You do not add to the friction. In that moment, the light is present. Or perhaps it is not a room, but a relationship. Someone has hurt you. Not a small, incidental hurt, but the deep kind, the kind that leaves a mark, that you still feel in quiet moments when you thought you had moved past it, and you are faced with a choice. You could respond from that wound. It would be entirely understandable. But something within you, not your own strength, but the life of the Father moving through your abiding, something holds you, keeps your words from becoming weapons, keeps bitterness from writing the script. That is the light overcoming darkness, not in a dramatic, visible way, not in a way that anyone might applaud or even notice, but in the quiet, invisible victory of a soul that chose not to be reshaped by the darkness of another person's choices. And then there are the even smaller things, the ones so small they barely seem worth mentioning. The choice to be honest when a small lie would have been so much easier and so much less costly. The choice to stay patient when every nerve in your body is fraying. The choice to forgive. Not the large, ceremonial forgiveness that feels significant, but the daily, quiet, almost invisible forgiveness that happens in the space between a hurt and your response to it. These choices, strung together across the hours and days of a life, become a lamp set on a stand. Do not despise the small things. The world looks for light in what is dazzling, in grand gestures, in large platforms, in visible impact that can be measured and reported. But God has always worked through the quiet and the faithful. A hidden prayer spoken for someone who will never know it was prayed. A meal shared with someone who needed more than food, who needed to feel that they were not invisible. A silence kept at exactly the right moment, when speaking would have felt satisfying, but would have only driven the wound deeper. These are not small things in the economy of heaven. These are the fragrance of a life that has been near the Father. And here is something that changes everything once you truly see it. When you learn to live by God's light, when His presence becomes the lens through which you perceive your days, the way you see the world around you begins to shift. Gradually, quietly, almost imperceptibly at first. And then one day you realize that what once looked only like ordinary life has become full of signs that the Father is near. The gentle wind that touches your face on a day when you felt forgotten. The unexpected kindness from someone who had no particular reason to be kind. The peace that settles over you after a prayer that felt clumsy and incomplete. A peace that makes no logical sense given your circumstances, but is unmistakably real. Even the tears, the ones that once led you only deeper into despair, under the light of the Father. Those same tears begin to draw you closer to Him rather than further away. Rivers of living water. That is the promise for the one who abides. Not a trickle, not an occasional drip of grace when conditions are right. Rivers flowing outward, reaching the dry places around you, touching the lives of people who didn't even know they were thirsty until they stood near you and felt something change. But here is the quiet responsibility that comes with all of this. The more you behold the Father, the more you are transformed, and the closer you remain to the light, the less you are able to continue living as though you belong to darkness. This is not pressure. It is simply the nature of light. Light changes what it touches. You cannot sit near a fire without being warmed. You cannot walk in sunlight without casting a shadow. And so the life being described here is not a passive one. It is not a life of sitting quietly and hoping that goodness somehow radiates out of you without any cooperation on your part. It is a life of choosing, day after day, in the small and the large and the in-between, to carry what the Father has placed within you into every room, every relationship, every moment that is given to you, not to be admired, not to be noticed, but so that others, the ones who are lost, the ones who are tired, the ones who have almost stopped looking for light altogether, might feel, even briefly, even without being able to name it, that the Father is still near, that He has not forgotten them, that somewhere, in the life of an ordinary person who simply chose to remain close to the source, his light is still moving through this world, and it begins with you. There is something no one tells you when you first fall in love with the light. They tell you about the beauty of it, about the warmth, the peace, the sense of being held and known and fully loved. They tell you about the transformation, how everything looks different when you begin to see through the Father's eyes, how relationships soften, how the world opens up into something more layered and meaningful than it seemed before. They tell you about the joy. What they don't always tell you is that the lamp needs tending, not because God is fragile, not because his love flickers based on your performance or dims when you have a bad week, or burns low when you forget to say the right prayers in the right order. His love is not dependent on your consistency, but the connection between your soul and the source, that living, breathing, daily connection that allows his light to flow through you naturally, that requires something from you. It requires return, not perfection, not an unblemished record of spiritual devotion, simply the willingness to come back, again and again and again, to not let the distance grow so wide that you forget what it felt like to be near. Here is where many souls quietly lose their way, not in a single dramatic moment of rebellion or crisis, not in one catastrophic choice that severs everything at once, but gradually, gently in the slow accumulation of days where the lamp was not tended because life was busy, because you were tired, because things were going well enough that the urgency to draw near felt less pressing than it once did. Success can do this to a soul just as surely as failure can. When things are going well, when prayers seem to be answered, when relationships feel stable, when your faith has a certain easy momentum to it, there is a quiet temptation to begin coasting, to assume that because the lamp burned brightly yesterday, it will continue burning today without any fresh oil, to let the morning prayer become shorter, then optional, then something you mean to get back to when life settles down. And then one day you look up, and the light that once felt so close and so warm seems somehow distant, not gone, but dimmer than it was, and you cannot quite identify the moment it began to fade, because it happened so slowly. Small successes that made you forget the source. That is one trap, but there is another, equally subtle, equally dangerous. Failure when you fall, and you will fall, because you are human and the road is long and the ground is uneven. There is a voice that rises almost immediately, a voice that says you have gone too far this time, that the lamp within you has not merely dimmed, but gone out entirely, that someone who has stumbled the way you have stumbled has forfeited the right to draw near, forfeited the right to be held, forfeited the right to return. That voice is not your Father's voice. Your Father's voice says something entirely different. It says, come back, not after you have cleaned yourself up, not after you have proven that you mean it this time. Now, as you are, with the dust still on you, and the shame still fresh. Come back now, because the lamp within you, however low it has burned, however covered it has become with the smoke of fear and failure, has not gone out, and the oil is still available, and the way back is shorter than the voice of shame wants you to believe. This is the rhythm the Father is always calling you into, not a rhythm of perfection, but a rhythm of return. Think of it this way. The lamp does not burn steadily because you are strong. It burns steadily because you have learned, through practice, through repetition, through the accumulated experience of having drifted and come back enough times to know the pattern, because you have learned how to return to the one who makes it burn. That is the secret hidden inside the simplest spiritual disciplines. Prayer, when it is alive, is not a performance offered to impress God. It is the soul drawing close to the source of its own life. It is the branch pressing itself back against the vine when it has begun to feel the dryness that comes from distance. It is the mirror turning itself back toward the light after it has been facing the wrong direction. And it does not need to be eloquent. It does not need to be long. It does not need to be decorated with the right theological language or offered at the approved hour with the correct emotional tone. It only needs to be honest. Father, I have been far. I am returning now. That prayer, offered sincerely from the quietest, most tired place within you, is enough to begin the flow of oil again. There is a man in the old story whose face once shone so brightly that people had to shield their eyes. Moses did not achieve that brightness through discipline alone. He did not earn it through years of accumulated spiritual merit. He received it through presence, through choosing again and again to climb the mountain, to sit in the place where God was, to listen before speaking, to remain before moving. And here's what is quietly remarkable about that story. Moses never seemed to notice his own face shining. He came down from the mountain unaware that anything visible had changed. The brightness was not something he manufactured or monitored or maintained through self-effort. It was simply the trace, the natural, unforced trace of time spent near the source. When you spend time in the Father's presence, not just asking for things, but allowing His Word to wash through your mind, allowing silence to become something you are comfortable inside of, allowing prayer to be less of a transaction and more of a return, others will begin to notice something in you that you yourself may not see. A steadiness, a gentleness that does not feel forced, a peace that seems disproportionate to your circumstances, a quality of mercy in the way you treat people that goes beyond what personality or upbringing alone can explain. They will not always be able to name what they are seeing, but something in them will recognize it. You have been with your Father, so tend the lamp, not out of fear that it will go out if you miss a day, not out of guilt or obligation or the anxious need to maintain a certain standard of spiritual performance, but out of love, out of the simple, quiet recognition that the light within you, the light that warms the people around you, that guides you through your own dark seasons, that makes you, in some small but real way, a lamp in the world. That light flows from a source you did not create and cannot sustain on your own. Keep oil in the lamp through prayer. Keep the heart clean through the honesty of repentance. Keep the eyes fixed through the daily practice of faith. Keep the steps aligned through love, not the love that performs for an audience, but the love that chooses, quietly and consistently, to remain. And when you live this way, not perfectly, but faithfully, with the willingness to return every time you drift, darkness loses its grip on your identity. It may surround you in certain seasons. It may press in close and make the road difficult to see, but it cannot possess you, because you belong to the Father, and what He has lit within you, He will not allow to be extinguished. There comes a moment in the life of every soul that has learned to abide, a moment when the light within begins to feel too full to keep only for itself. It is not a dramatic moment. It does not announce itself with great urgency or arrive with clear instructions. It is more like a gentle expansion, a quiet widening of the heart. You begin to notice, with a tenderness you did not always possess, the people around you who are struggling in ways they cannot articulate. The colleague who laughs too loudly and too quickly. The friend who has gone a little quieter than usual. The family member whose eyes carry something they have not yet found the words to speak. And something within you, the light, the living water, the breath of the Father moving through a soul that has been staying close to the source, something within you begins to reach toward them. This is where intercession is born, not in a church program, not in a scheduled slot on a spiritual to-do list, but in the natural overflow of a heart that has received enough of the Father's love to begin carrying others into His presence. But here is what you must understand before anything else about intercession. It is hard to measure, and in a world that is deeply attached to visible results, That difficulty can quietly discourage even the most faithful of intercessors. You have prayed for someone, perhaps for months, perhaps for years. You have brought their name before the Father with tears you did not plan to shed. You have woken in the middle of the night with them on your heart and whispered their name into the darkness, trusting that the darkness is not the ceiling and that something beyond it was listening. And still, as far as you can see, nothing has changed. They are still struggling. The relationship is still broken. The door is still closed. The heart you prayed would soften is still, from where you stand, as hard as it was the day you began. Do not measure the power of prayer by the speed of what you can see. There are seeds the Father plants in hidden places long before the harvest appears above ground. There are streams He has already caused to begin flowing beneath the surface before a single green shoot is visible through the cracked soil. The unseen work of God is always larger and always further along than what your eyes are able to report back to you. The prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective, not occasionally powerful, not effective only when the results become visible, powerful and effective in the throne room, in the unseen realm, in the spiritual dimensions of a person's life that you will never have direct access to. Always, when you intercede for another soul, you step into something holy. You are no longer simply managing your own spiritual life. You are becoming a participant in the Father's work, in someone else's story. You are standing in the gap, that vulnerable, invisible space between where a person is and where God is calling them, and you are holding that space open with your prayers. Think of Moses on the hilltop while Joshua fought in the valley below. The battle that determined the outcome of that day was not decided only by the strength of the soldiers or the sharpness of the swords. It was decided by lifted hands. When Moses' hands were raised, the people of God prevailed. When weariness pulled his hands down, the enemy advanced. And when Aaron and Hur came alongside him and held his arms up until the sun went down, the victory was secured. There are people in your life right now who are fighting battles in the valley, and they are growing tired. Their arms are heavy. Their strength is thinning. They may not even be aware that what they need most is not better strategy or more courage. What they need is someone on the hill, lifting hands on their behalf. That someone can be you. But intercession requires something that does not come naturally to a wounded heart. It requires that your prayers flow from mercy rather than judgment, from compassion rather than the quiet, unspoken desire to be proven right about the person's situation, from genuine love rather than the need to fix or control or see the outcome arranged according to your own expectations. The tongue is powerful. Proverbs reminds us that death and life are in its power. And what is true of spoken words is equally true of the words we bring before the Father in prayer. You can intercede in ways that sow life, and you can intercede, though you may not intend to, in ways that simply rehearse your frustration dressed in spiritual language. The Father is inviting you into something deeper. He wants your prayers for others to be washed clean of the need to manage outcomes. He wants you to come before Him on behalf of other souls, not as someone presenting a case for how things should go, but as someone offering love, pure, open-handed, expectant love, and trusting the rest entirely to Him. And then there is the harder invitation still, praying for those who have hurt you. This is not a small thing. It is perhaps the most stretching work the Father will ever ask of your heart. Not because He is cruel, not because He dismisses your pain or asks you to pretend the wound never happened. He sees the wound. He knows exactly how deep it goes and exactly how long you have been carrying it. But He also knows something you may not yet fully see. Bitterness, left untended in the soil of your soul, does not punish the person who hurt you. It grows in you. It shapes you. It slowly redefines how you see everything, relationships, trust, the future, even God Himself. until the person who wounded you has, without even being present, continued to wound you every day since. Praying for them breaks that cycle. Not immediately, not without cost, and not in a way that requires you to reopen doors that wisdom has rightly closed. But something shifts in the interior of a soul that chooses to lift even the name of someone who caused them pain before the Father's throne. The chains of resentment begin, link by link, to loosen. The wound begins, slowly, quietly, to be handed over to the one who is actually capable of healing it. Your prayers for others, offered in love and released in faith, do not disappear. They rise, they are kept, and they are used at the right moment in the right way, with a wisdom that reaches far beyond what your eyes could ever see from where you are standing. Do not stop praying. The harvest is coming, and it will be worth every quiet, unseen, tear-accompanied seed you have sown in faith. There is a practice so simple it is easy to overlook, and so powerful it can change the entire atmosphere of a waiting soul. It is not a complicated spiritual discipline. It does not require special knowledge or years of training, or a particular gift that only certain people are born with. It is available to you right now, in whatever season you find yourself in, regardless of how much or how little has gone the way you hoped. It is gratitude, not the performative kind, not the forced brightness that pastes a smile over genuine pain and calls it faith, not the hollow declaration that everything is fine when everything is clearly not fine. The Father is not asking you to pretend. He has never been interested in your performance. He has always been interested in your heart. What he is inviting you into is something far more honest than pretending, and far more powerful than simply enduring. He is inviting you to place your tears, the real ones, the ones you have been crying in private, the ones attached to prayers that still seem unanswered, and hopes that still seem delayed. He is inviting you to place those tears beneath the light of his faithfulness, to hold them up, not to prove that everything is already resolved, but to declare that even here, even in this, your Father is still good. That is what true gratitude does. It is important to understand what gratitude is not before you can fully receive what it is. Gratitude is not the denial of difficulty. It does not require you to look at a closed door and pretend it is open, or to look at a dry season and call it a harvest, or to look at pain and insist it does not hurt. The Father is not asking you to perform contentment you do not feel. He is asking you to make a choice, a deliberate, sometimes costly, always faith-filled choice, to anchor your soul in what is unchangingly true even when your circumstances are speaking something different. And what is unchangingly true is this: He is faithful. He has been faithful before. He will be faithful again. And what feels like silence is not the same as absence. What feels like delay is not the same as denial. What feels like being forgotten is not the same as being released. Gratitude says all of this without words. It says it simply by continuing to give thanks even when the answer has not yet arrived, by acknowledging his goodness even while the waiting continues, by refusing to let circumstances become the measure of his love. And when you do that, when you make that choice, even on the days when it costs you something, something shifts. Not always in your circumstances, but in you, in the interior atmosphere of your soul. The tightness that fear produces begins to loosen. The narrow tunnel of anxiety begins to widen, and you begin to see things you could not see before, because fear had narrowed your vision down to only what was wrong and only what was missing. There is a story in the Old Testament that captures this more vividly than almost any other. A king named Jehoshaphat found himself facing something that by every human calculation was impossible. A vast army was coming against his people, far too large, far too powerful, far beyond anything that could be managed by strategy or strength alone. And when he received the news, he did not begin with panic. He did not immediately reach for a plan. He turned his face toward God. He called his people to prayer, and he stood before them and said, with a humility that is almost startling in its honesty, "We do not know what to do, but our eyes are upon you." And then God spoke. He said, "The battle belongs to me." And then came the part that should take your breath away. When the army went out to face the enemy, Jehoshaphat did not send the strongest soldiers to the front. He sent the singers. He sent the worshipers. He sent the ones whose only weapon was a voice lifted in praise. "Give thanks to the Lord, for his mercy endures forever." And they sang it not after the victory, but before it. Not when the enemy had already been defeated, but while the threat was still visible on the horizon. And as the praise rose, God moved. The enemy was defeated before a single sword was drawn. Thanksgiving placed before the outcome. Gratitude offered before the evidence arrived. That is not naivety. That is the most courageous act a waiting soul can perform. Here is what happens in you when you choose to give thanks. Before you see the answer, your eyes begin to adjust. It is like walking from a dark room into a room where light is slowly being turned up. At first, your eyes can only see what is directly in front of you. The problem, the lack, the unanswered prayer, the unchanged circumstance. But as gratitude opens your heart, your vision begins to widen, and you start to notice things that were always there but that fear had made invisible. The breath you drew this morning without thinking about it, that is grace. The person who has remained beside you through this season when others left, that is grace. The door that closed 6 months ago that felt at the time like pure loss, and that you can now, with a little distance, begin to see may have protected you from something you did not have the perspective to see then. That is grace. The tear that fell last week during a prayer that felt clumsy and incomplete, and the inexplicable peace that settled over you afterward, slowly, like something being gently placed on tired shoulders. That is grace. Gratitude teaches you to count these things, and the more you count them, the more you find there are to count. And the more you find there are to count, the less completely fear is able to occupy the space of your soul. In everything give thanks, not for everything, but in everything. Not because every circumstance deserves celebration, but because the Father who holds every circumstance is always worthy of trust. When intercession and gratitude live together in the same heart, something remarkable becomes possible. You are able to carry the weight of others without being crushed by it. You are able to stand in the gap for weary souls while keeping your own peace, not because you are strong, but because you know who holds the final burden. You are able to pray with open hands rather than clenched fists, to believe for others even in seasons when believing for yourself feels thin, because gratitude has reminded you again and again in the small daily practice of giving thanks. It has reminded you that your Father has never once dropped what he was holding, and he is not about to start now. So let the lamp of gratitude burn, even in the waiting, even in the silence, even on the days when the only honest prayer you can offer is, "Father, I do not yet see it, but I still believe you are good." That prayer, offered from a heart that genuinely means it, is a flame that darkness cannot touch. There are seasons when the light feels far, not gone. You know somewhere beneath the surface that it has not gone, but far, distant in the way that the sun feels distant on a winter morning when the sky is so thickly covered with cloud that you cannot find the direction it is coming from. You know it is there. You know it has not ceased to exist simply because you cannot see it. But knowing that does not make the cold feel any less real. This is what doubt feels like when it descends on a soul that genuinely loves God. And it is important to say that clearly, because there is a voice that will tell you, in the middle of those seasons, that the very presence of doubt is proof that your faith was never real to begin with. that a truly believing heart would not be asking these questions, that the fog you are experiencing is evidence of something fundamentally wrong with you. That voice is lying to you. Doubt is not the opposite of faith. It is not the enemy that has come to destroy what God has built in you. In many cases, not all, but many, doubt is simply the place where faith is being invited to grow deeper than it has ever gone before. It is the underground season, the season where what is happening in the hidden places of your soul is far more significant than what is visible on the surface. The roots grow deepest when the wind blows hardest. But understanding that in theory does not make the experience of it any less disorienting, because doubt does not arrive like a clear and obvious enemy you can prepare yourself to face. It does not knock on the door and announce itself. It comes quietly. It settles, like fine dust drifting down onto glass so slowly and so gently that you do not notice it accumulating until one day you look at the mirror of your faith and realize the view has gone murky. It comes in the accumulation of unanswered prayers, in the exhaustion of waiting for something that was promised and has not yet arrived, in the moment you look at someone else's life, someone who seems to be receiving effortlessly what you have been asking for with everything in you, and the comparison opens a wound you didn't know was still tender. It comes when you look at silence and call it absence, when you look at delay and call it abandonment, when you look at a closed door and conclude not that the Father is protecting you or preparing something better, but that the Father has simply forgotten you exist. And in those moments, the fog thickens, and the distance feels real, and the warmth that once came so naturally in prayer begins to feel like something you invented, something you cannot quite get back to no matter how many times you try. Remember Abraham. He received a promise so vast, it required the night sky as a visual aid, descendants as numerous as the stars. And then he went home, and morning came. Nothing had changed. And the next morning came, and nothing had changed. And the years began to pass in the slow, grinding way that years pass, when you are holding something you were told would come, and it has not come, and you are running out of natural reasons to keep believing it will. Every night he could look up and see the stars and remember the promise. Every morning he woke to a reality that had not yet caught up with what he had been told. And yet God had not forgotten. The promise was not late in God's economy. It was being prepared in depths that Abraham's eyes could not access. And at the appointed time, not Abraham's appointed time, but God's, Isaac was born. The impossible became real, and no amount of delay had the power to cancel what God had spoken. Your delay is not your denial. What feels like God going quiet may be God going deeper into the preparation of something your current season is not yet ready to hold. And then there was Thomas, grief-stricken, bewildered Thomas, who had given everything to follow someone he believed in completely, and then watched that someone be taken and killed in the most public and humiliating way imaginable. And when the others came to him with the news of resurrection, his heart could not make the journey from devastation to belief in a single step. He said, "Unless I see, unless I touch, I will not believe." And Jesus did not respond to that with distance or disappointment or a lecture about the inadequacy of his faith. He walked into the locked room. He stood among them. He looked directly at Thomas and said, "Touch the wounds. See for yourself. Do not be faithless. Believe, not a rebuke, an invitation." The Father meets doubt with presence, not punishment. He enters the locked rooms of our hearts, the places we have sealed off because we are afraid of what it means that we are not sure anymore. And he does not shame us for what he finds there. He simply makes himself known, again gently, with more patience than we deserve. So when doubt comes, and it will come, because you are human and the road is long and the night is sometimes very dark, do not let it pull you into isolation. Do not seal the room and decide that because you cannot feel God, He is not there. Bring the doubt to Him instead. Say the most honest prayer you have ever prayed. Father, I once believed more easily than I do today. The fog has come, and I cannot see clearly. I am not sure of everything I was once sure of, but I am here, and I still want to find you in this. That prayer is not weak. That prayer is the bravest thing a doubting soul can do. And the Father, who is never afraid of your honest questions, who never turns away from a heart that is still reaching even while it is trembling, the Father will answer it, not always immediately, not always in the way you expect, but He will answer. The fog does not have the final word. The dawn does, and the dawn is already coming, even now, even here. Even in the thickest part of the night you are currently inside. Hold on. There is a valley that many souls have wandered into without realizing it. It does not look like a valley when you first arrive. It does not announce itself as a place of captivity or present itself as somewhere you will stay longer than you should. It looks, at first, like the appropriate response to having fallen short, like the reasonable consequence of having made mistakes, like the honest acknowledgement of your own weakness and failure. And then the days pass, and you are still there, and what began as honest humility has quietly become something else entirely, something heavier, something that has stopped pointing you toward the Father and started pointing you only toward yourself, toward every wrong choice, every broken promise, every moment of weakness, every version of yourself you are not proud of. This is the valley of shame, and the terrible thing about it is how easy it is to begin calling it home. Shame is patient. It does not need to arrive loudly or all at once. It comes in drops, small, almost imperceptible drops of accusation that fall so regularly and so quietly that you stop noticing them as they carve their path through the interior of your soul. You are not good enough. Drop. You have failed too many times to be taken seriously by God anymore. Drop. Other people may be restored, but your situation is different. What you did, what you allowed, what you became in that season, that is beyond what grace can reach. Drop, and over time, without ever making a conscious decision to believe these things, you find that you have built an entire framework of self-understanding around them. You have accepted a verdict that was never handed down by your Father. You have bowed your head before a voice that does not belong to the throne room of heaven, because here is what the Father's voice actually says. There is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. Not, there is no condemnation for those who have reached a certain level of spiritual maturity. Not, there is no condemnation for those whose failures were small enough to be overlooked. No condemnation, full stop, for those who are in Christ. Which means the ground of your standing before the Father is not the quality of your record. It is the quality of His grace, and His grace has not run out on you. Remember the story of the son who left home. He did not merely make a small mistake or stumble in a moment of weakness. He took everything his father had given him, walked away deliberately, and spent it all on a life that had nothing to do with who he was created to be. And when the emptiness finally became impossible to ignore, when he was sitting in the dirt with nothing left, he rehearsed a speech on the way home, a speech designed to lower his own expectations before his father could lower them for him. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your servants. He had already accepted the verdict of shame before he arrived, but the Father was watching the road, and when he saw the figure of his son still far in the distance, he did not wait. He ran, not walked, ran, and before the son could deliver his carefully prepared speech, before he could negotiate his way into a lesser position, before he could finish explaining all the reasons he did not deserve to be fully received, the Father's arms were already around him. The robe came before the explanation. The ring came before the apology was complete. The celebration began before the son had fully processed the fact that he was home. This is the Father's heart toward you, not cold eyes at the doorway, demanding an account of where you have been, but running feet and open arms and a love that moves toward you faster than your shame can prepare you for. Think of Gideon, hiding in a winepress, threshing wheat in secret because he was afraid. He did not see himself as someone capable of courage or leadership or anything that could turn the tide of his people's suffering. He saw his family's weakness. He saw his own smallness. He saw the gap between what the situation required and what he felt capable of offering. And in the middle of that hiding place, God's messenger arrived and called him something that must have felt almost absurd given the circumstances. Mighty warrior, not you will become a mighty warrior once you have worked through your fear. Not I see potential in you that might eventually develop into something useful. Mighty warrior, present tense, based not on what Gideon felt, but on what God had already placed within him that Gideon had not yet learned to see. God is not waiting for you to feel ready before he calls you. He calls you from within the hiding place, from within the valley, from within the shame-soaked season where you have convinced yourself that the most you can offer is damaged goods and half-hearted attempts and a faith too wounded to be of use to anyone. He calls you from exactly there because he sees exactly there. And what he sees is not what shame has told you he sees. There are places within you that you have sealed away, joy that you decided you no longer deserved, hope that you buried quietly after one too many disappointments, the ability to believe again, truly believe, with open hands and a full heart that you set aside somewhere along the road because it hurt too much to keep carrying it and having it go unrewarded. You have called those places finished, done beyond recovery. But the Father is standing before them right now, speaking into them with the same voice that once called a dead man out of a sealed tomb, come out. Not one day when you have healed yourself sufficiently, not eventually, when enough time has passed. Now, in the authority of the one who specializes in calling life out of places that every human eye has already written off as beyond hope. So hear this clearly, beloved. Shame is not your name. The valley is not your home. The verdict that has been playing on repeat in the quietest rooms of your interior life, the one that says you are too far gone, too marked by failure, too familiar with falling to ever fully rise again, that verdict did not come from your Father, and it does not have to be the last word. Step out of the valley, not with manufactured confidence, not pretending the falls never happened, or the wounds were never real, but with the humble, trembling, deeply honest step of a soul that has heard its Father calling from the other side of the shame. He is not calling you to be what you were before you fell. He is calling you into something deeper, something more rooted, something that could only have been formed in a soul that has known both the falling and the grace that met it on the way down. Come out. Your Father is waiting, and his arms, as they have always been, are already open. There is a question that lives in the heart of almost every person who has ever tried to walk faithfully with God. It does not always get spoken aloud. It is too tender for that, too close to the place where faith and pain intersect in ways that feel almost too honest to voice. But it is there, quietly present in the background of many prayers, surfacing most clearly in the long nights when the silence feels less like peace and more like absence. The question is simply this: where are you? not asked in anger necessarily, not always asked in despair, but asked from the genuine, bewildered place of a soul that has been faithful, that has prayed, that has waited, that has chosen trust again and again, even when trust was costly, and that still cannot see clear evidence that anything is moving, that still watches injustice continue, that still carries unanswered prayers like stones in the pocket, that still wakes up to the same unchanged circumstances that were there the night before. Where are you in this? And the silence that follows that question can feel, in the worst moments, like the most devastating answer of all. But silence is not absence. This is perhaps the most important thing to understand about the seasons when God seems quiet. The silence you experience is not the silence of a father who has lost interest, or grown distracted, or decided that your particular situation is not worth his continued attention. It is not the silence of abandonment. It is the silence of a craftsman who is working at a depth your instruments cannot currently measure. Think of what happens beneath the surface of the ground in winter. To the eye looking at the field, nothing is happening. The ground is hard. The surface is bare. There is no visible movement, no evidence of life, nothing to suggest that anything is being prepared. And yet beneath that cold and apparently lifeless surface, something is happening that the eye simply cannot access. Root systems are deepening. Seeds that were planted in autumn are undergoing the slow, hidden transformation that will make spring possible. The field is not dead. It is becoming. And your season of silence may be exactly the same. There was a prophet named Habakkuk who understood the weight of unanswered questions better than most. He looked at the world around him and saw violence. He saw injustice walking freely through the streets, while the sincere suffered loss. He saw the wicked prospering and the righteous struggling, and the gap between what he believed about God and what he observed about life growing uncomfortably wide. And he did not dress it up. He did not perform contentment he did not feel. He brought the raw, unpolished truth of his confusion directly to God and said, "How long must I call for help, and you do not listen? How long must I watch injustice, and you do not intervene?" And God did not cast him away for the honesty. He did not withdraw or grow cold or respond with a lecture about the inappropriate nature of the question. He answered. And the heart of the answer was this: the righteous shall live by faith, not by explanation, not by full comprehension of every divine decision, not by having every question resolved before being willing to take the next step. By faith, by the daily, sometimes difficult, always worth it choice to trust the nature of the one you cannot currently see clearly. And then there was a garden, late at night. A man on his knees with sweat falling like drops of blood from the intensity of what he was carrying, even Jesus, in the most faithful act of obedience the world has ever witnessed, prayed a prayer that included the words, "Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me." Even perfect love, in its most surrendered moment, felt the weight of what was being asked. Even the Son of God knew what it was to carry something enormously costly, and to bring that cost honestly before the Father. And the silence that followed that prayer, the silence of the cross, the silence of the tomb, the 3 days when heaven appeared to have given no answer at all, that silence was not the absence of God's work. It was the container within which the most significant work God has ever done was quietly completing itself. The resurrection did not contradict the silence. It was born from within it. Think of Joseph, sold by his brothers, falsely accused, forgotten in a prison where years passed without explanation or apology or any visible sign that the promises spoken over his early life still had any relevance to his current reality. If you looked only at the individual moments, the betrayal, the accusation, the imprisonment, the forgetting, you would see only a catalog of injustice. You would see a life derailed. a promising story collapsed. But God was present in every one of those moments, present in the slavery, present in the false accusation, present in the prison cell during the years of silence when no one called Joseph's name with any kindness attached to it, and at the appointed time, God's appointed time, not the time Joseph would have chosen, not the time that made logical sense from inside the cell. Everything that had been prepared in the hidden seasons came together, and what the brothers had intended as destruction became the very road God used to position Joseph to save an entire generation from famine. You intended it for harm. God intended it for good. Not good in a shallow sense. Not good meaning pleasant or painless or easy to understand from the inside. Good in the deepest sense. The sense that nothing, not betrayal or injustice or silence or delay, nothing is beyond God's ability to redeem when it is placed into His hands. So when the silence presses in, do not conclude that it means what fear tells you it means. Do not look at the unchanged field and decide the seed is dead. Do not look at the sealed stone and decide resurrection is impossible. Do not look at the prison cell and decide the promise has expired. The refiner does not leave the furnace while the gold is being purified. He stays. He watches. He tends the temperature with a precision that cannot be rushed and cannot be forced and cannot be fully understood from inside the fire. And when the work is complete, when what needed to be burned away has been burned away and what needed to be deepened has been deepened, He brings you out, not destroyed, refined, not abandoned, prepared, not forgotten, held through every silent moment by the same hand that has never once let go. Trust the unseen work. It is always further along than the silence would have you believe. We have traveled a long way together, through the quiet invitation to abide, through the tender responsibility of carrying light into ordinary spaces, through the discipline of tending the lamp and lifting others through intercession, through the practice of gratitude in the midst of waiting, through the fog of doubt and the valley of shame, and the long, stretching silence of seasons when God seemed far, but was never once absent. And now we arrive here, at the last chapter, at the place where everything that has been said finds its final resting point. And what I want to say to you here in this quietest and most unhurried moment of everything we have shared is simply this. Your story is not finished, not even close. There is a tendency, when you have walked through enough hard seasons, to begin reading your life as though it were a book whose ending you have already guessed. You look at the pages behind you, the ones marked by failure, by loss, by choices you wish you could unmake, by prayers that seem to go nowhere, and hopes that seem to dissolve before they could fully form. And something in you begins to conclude that these pages tell you everything you need to know about how the story ends. But you are not the author. And the one who is writing your story sees things from a vantage point so far above your current chapter that what looks to you like an ending is often, in his perspective, nothing more than the turn of a page. What looks like a conclusion is sometimes the space between paragraphs, the breath the story takes before something new begins. Behold, he says, I make all things new, not some things, not the easy things, not the things that were only slightly damaged and didn't require much effort to restore. All things, including the things you have quietly removed from your list of what you still dare to believe is possible for your life. There was a woman who came to a well in the middle of the day. She chose that hour deliberately. Midday, when the sun was highest and the other women had already come and gone, was the hour least likely to require her to endure their eyes. She had learned, through accumulated experience, that eyes carried judgment, that the story of her life, laid out in full, produced a particular quality of silence in the people around her, the kind of silence that communicates more clearly than words ever could. So she came alone, and she found someone already waiting there. Someone who already knew her entire story, not the edited version she offered to most people, not the surface-level account that concealed the depths of what she had been through. The real story, every chapter of it, read and understood completely. And instead of meeting her with the silence she had learned to expect, he met her with an offer: living water. The kind that reaches the places no earthly remedy has ever been able to touch. The kind that satisfies the thirst that has survived every attempt to quench it with something lesser. And that woman, the one who arrived at the well, hoping only to avoid being seen, left it unable to stop telling people what had happened. The very place of her shame became the beginning of her testimony. The story she had been hiding became the story that pointed an entire town toward the one who had met her in it. Your past is not a verdict in the Father's hands. It is material. And then there is Peter, bold, impulsive, deeply loving Peter, who declared on the night everything fell apart that he would never deny the one he had followed, and then denied him 3 times, with increasing desperation, while the man he loved was being tried in a courtyard not far away. And the rooster crowed, and their eyes met across the distance, and Peter went out and wept bitterly, because he understood exactly what he had done and could not find a way to ununderstand it. If shame had written the rest of his story, it would have ended there, at the rooster's crow, at the bitter weeping, at the irreversible public record of a failure so specific and so witnessed that there was no reasonable way to pretend it hadn't happened. But grace does not write the way shame writes. After the resurrection, Jesus found Peter by the sea, not to confront him, not to present an itemized account of the betrayal, but to ask a question so gentle it must have broken something open in Peter's chest, just to hear it. Do you love me? 3 times the question, once for each denial, not to reopen the wound, but to heal it at every layer where it had formed. And with each answer Peter gave, came a new commission: feed my sheep. Not, you may observe from a safe distance now that your reliability has been called into question. Not, I will give you a reduced role appropriate to someone with your track record. The full commission, the original calling, spoken again freshly, over a man who had just proven in the most public way possible that he was capable of the very failure he had promised was impossible. Grace did not deny the fall. Grace simply refused to let the fall be the final word. And this is what the Father wants to say to you, here, at the end of this long and quiet journey we have taken together. He has seen every page of your story, every chapter you are proud of, and every chapter you wish existed only in a version of your life that no one, including you, ever had to read. He has seen the falls and the failures and the seasons of distance and the prayers that came out broken and the faith that trembled when it should have stood firm. And he has not closed the book. He is still writing, and the ink he is using is not the ink of your mistakes. It is the ink of his grace, inexhaustible, patient, creative in ways that exceed anything your own imagination could produce, and entirely unintimidated by the complexity of the story he has chosen to tell through your one particular, irreplaceable life. Stop counting the ink stains. Start paying attention to what is being written around them. You are not the sum of your failures. You are not the report of your worst seasons. You are not the verdict that shame has been rehearsing in the quiet rooms of your interior life. You are the beloved child of a Father who runs toward returning souls, who calls mighty warriors out of wine presses, who meets broken women at midday wells, who restores fishermen who denied him, and transforms doubters into witnesses, and brings life out of sealed tombs on the 3rd day. You are a life still in his hands, and what he holds he does not waste. What he authors he does not abandon. What he loves, and he loves you fully. completely, without condition or reservation. What he loves, he finishes well. So breathe. You are held. You are seen. You are called by name. The lamp within you has not gone out. The story being written through you has not ended. The Father who began this good work in you is still at it, patiently, faithfully, with a love that does not grow tired and a grace that does not run dry. Rest here for a moment, and then, when you are ready, not when you are perfect, not when you have resolved every question or healed every wound or figured out every next step, but simply when you are ready, whenever that is, rise. Your Father's light is still burning within you, and the world still needs what only you, in your particular and unrepeatable way, can carry into it.